this is probably indicative of the accounts that I follow on Twitter, but I keep seeing this headline that Christopher Pratt keeps saying that like nobody calls him Chris, everybody calls him Pratt or CP. And so last time we talked, I was calling you Peter and Michael. Do you guys go by Pete and Mike, or what's the best thing to call you?
It's kind of like dealer's choice for me. Maybe it depends on when you met me, but I think you guys call me Mike, right?
Same thing.
All right.
Pete, Peter, Pedro. Oh, it's always
got it. Very cool. So we talked in March of last year, right after the album came out, and one of the questions I asked you was kind of what you had done during your downtime during COVID. And Mike, you mentioned you moved to the country. Pete, you mentioned you were working on your 67 Bronco. And Matt, you mentioned that you were just kind of taking in and appreciating everything that you had and not taking anything for granted. So have things changed? Do you still appreciate all that stuff? Is that stuff all part of your life today?
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah. I had a really good fight with my wife about the Bronco yesterday.
She wants you to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike's still enjoying living upstate.
Still in the country. I put some flamingo wallpaper in one of the rooms, but yeah, still here.
Very good. The other thing I was looking at, I was going back and reading the interview from last March, and the last question I asked you was, so in March, I don't think touring had really kind of picked back up yet. We were getting really close. I think I had just gotten my first shot, but I asked you if you guys were even considering going out on the road, knowing that you all have other things going on in your lives, and Mike and Pete both said definitely we're going to go out. But when did that become reality for you? When did it really feel like, okay, like it is safe? Did you wait to see what other bands were doing to see if it was safe, or were you all in and starting to book dates right away?
Well, I think since we last saw you, we did link up with some booking agents overseas and here, and a tour came together, and an opportunity came in November to go to the UK, which was really a dream for all three of us. So we went over there and did a couple of weeks of shows all throughout England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, and then that triggered a spring West Coast tour in 22, which we did earlier, and we've been to Texas, and now we're hitting some dates on the East Coast and the Midwest. So yeah, it's been really nice to just have the chance to go and play a string of shows. It's the first time we've been able to do that this last year, and we look forward to more.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, it's sort of like these little 1 week, 2 week runs, right? As opposed to starting in New York and crossing the country back and forth and doing stuff. Is that because of schedules, or is that just the best way to do it these days? Or like kind of what is the thinking behind doing shorter runs, but
Yeah, I think it's scheduling. I think it's kind of there's something, I don't know, it's satisfying and nice to go and hit the West Coast for 10 days, and then come back and be in our studio and record and not feel like we have to put everything on pause for a month or longer, perhaps even.
Yeah, we're men of a certain age. We have lives that aren't so easy to, nor do we really want to just kind of walk away from them for more than a limited amount of time at a time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What I also noticed, I didn't actually look at the exact dates for the West Coast stuff, but the stuff you have coming up now, I think you're doing like 8 shows in 9 days or something like that. So it's pretty, even though it's just a 8 or 9 day tour, there's a lot of driving every day. Was it trying to just get in as many days as you could in that period of time?
Yeah, I think there was some of that, and also just the romance of being in a van, being 21 and being in a van. We're just going to close our eyes and imagine that's what's happening.
I think if I'm right, like at no point were all three of you in the same production of Hedwig, right? But at points, two of you at various points, different combinations of two of you were together. So in terms of like, and you hadn't done a whole lot of touring, if I'm right, before the pandemic as a band. So what's it like being in a band together? Are you guys talkative and listening to stuff and hanging out and talking, or does everybody put their headphones on and kind of zone out and and not talk to each other?
I actually don't allow Peter, Matt, or anyone else to look me in the eye, let alone talk to me. That's just my thing, you know.
Of course.
No, we get along, you know. It's pretty drama free. We enjoy each other's company. We're comfortable kind of going off into our own interior spaces during long trips, but socialize as well. And Peter's the glue. Peter was the guy in the band when I did Hedwig, and then he was there with Matt when Matt and Peter went out on the tour for Hedwig. So he's the common denominator as far as the Hedwig experience goes. And I don't know, I've never been in a band, so it's hard for me to know what to compare it to, but I do think being a threesome is nice. It's I think we all bring something unique and vital to the trio, and if there's ever something we need to vote on, we know there's not going to be a tie, so that's nice.
Yeah. What about in terms of favorite rest stop snacks?
Yeah. Well, we have our sound engineer, who he would just pound what was it, chicken, just station fried.
Yeah, gas station fried chicken,
wings.
I would say Pringles.
And he would be like changing tires.
Pringles. Yeah, Pringles is actually good, because once you finish the Pringles, if somebody's really desperate to go to the bathroom and we can't really stop, you can just excuse yourself to the back of the van and make it happen with the Pringles can.
And you got the lid that you can put back on it. So
look at that, yeah. Like perfect reuse. That's awesome.
Yeah. We should get an endorsement deal with Pringles.
Did the West Coast and even the European stuff, did those feel like test runs for more touring, or was it like do you feel already confident enough in the performance and the set list and all that kind of stuff that it just felt like chapter one of the tour, as opposed to testing things out and seeing how things work? Yeah,
I think it's all experience that leads to hopefully our show evolving and growing. We've been traveling without a lighting person, so that's been interesting to get different sort of takes every night on the visual aspect of the show. But it's also, then sometimes we'll hit a city like in Colorado where the lighting person, or this happened in Oakland as well, where they sort of they got our logos and they projected them all over the walls behind us and around the space. And so certain shows feel more like we've got this fully realized live show, and then other shows it feels like we're just winging it with somebody new. And ultimately though, we're, anytime you get to play, 8 shows in 10 days or a couple of weeks of shows, you come out of it, I think, different on the other end. And that's certainly been the case, where we're growing and we feel ourselves growing. The set list is always up for debate, just because we're constantly, we have a lot more songs now than when we started. So and some of it, we have a new record that which we can also talk about, but it hasn't been released yet. So
great.
Figuring out which ones to play, and from that, and which the old ones and stuff like that. So yeah, very interesting. And that actually, I had a question similar to that it seems to me like Mercury Lounge is sort of like home base. It's where you kind of played the most shows, right? And kind of either tested stuff out or perfected stuff. And I think you sort of answered that question. I was going to ask what it's like when you're out of your home base element and in new places, but it's really dependent on the different staff at the different clubs and what they do and what they bring to the show, right? Like sort of in the lighting perspective. And
Yeah, it's nice that some of it, at least at this point, and hopefully will always to some degree be left to chance, to fate,
Yeah.
for every show to have its own unique kind of flavor and elements and curveballs and what have you. But yeah, when you're playing a live show in front of a live audience, it doesn't really feel like a testing ground for the future. It's just like what's happening right then every
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah. So I don't remember, I may be saying this incorrectly. The old saying, like it's like if it plays in Peoria, it'll play anywhere. Does that sound familiar? Is that the right? Am I using the right city and the right the phrase? But um, but I noticed, West Coast, you played bigger cities. But I did the one that stuck out to me was you played in Idaho, and so I did a little Googling to see what the local press said, and the Idaho press said that those lucky enough to get a ticket to the show were treated to, quote, one of those once in a lifetime memories. So it sounds to me like it does play in Peoria. It sounds like even in sort of like the middle of nowhere that the show still goes over well.
yeah,
I
I
guess.
think so.
Yeah, I guess the question behind that really is do you feel that, like, is it different? Like, do you feel the audiences are different when you're playing in an LA or a New York City or a Chicago as opposed to an Idaho or even Columbus, Ohio, where I'm at is not a huge city. Can you tell the difference between audiences?
I mean, it's interesting because audiences are different. Even, we did 2 shows in New York back to back, and it was a totally different energy, so I don't know, it's super weird. Like, every energy is different, every show is different. But Boise was an incredible show. I think we have very fond memories of that night. It was very beautiful. And Columbus, I mean, I love Ohio. I've been there a million times on tour and stuff, and it's always a fascinating and great place to be and to play.
Yeah. So this run has man-on-man opening. Is that right?
Yeah.
And is this did they do the West Coast dates with you?
LA. They did the LA show.
Got it. Was that a hand-picked opener? Or was it you guys share a booking agent? Was it a friendship you guys have had with some either Roddy or I don't remember his partner's name? But how did Man on Man get picked as the opener?
You.
Oh, no, our booking agent, I don't think she books them, but she knows them, and they were available. They had a date that was canceled, and they were available for LA, and we were, we love Faith No More and we love Roddy, and then they kind of blew us away in LA. They were super loud and just their songs are really cool. And so when we had a chance to pick an opener this tour, we were lucky that they were available again.
Yeah.
Have you seen them or do you know their music?
I know their music. I have not seen them. I think I honestly don't know. They were scheduled to play in Columbus, and I'm not sure if that date got canceled or whether they did play here, but I have not seen them yet. So
yeah, and we were, super excited. I don't know if we knew that Roddy was in Faith No More. I mean, I knew it, and then it was sort of mind-blowing to be watching him, hanging out with them, because they were kind of an integral part of our youths.
So you did say that you're working on you have another album done, or you're working on something, or what's going on with the new stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty much all done. It's all mixed, and but we also are adding little things here and there and going in, but we're really proud of it, and we can't wait to release it in early 23.
Okay, so that's the plan is get through this touring and get through the winter, and then come out early next year.
Yeah, possibly some singles will be released in the interim, maybe a couple, but yeah, that's the plan.
And you're playing some of that stuff live too?
Oh yeah.
Very cool. All right, thanks a lot. Good catching up with you guys, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
You too.
All right,
take care.
Thank you.